Hi, I'm Tin. My project title is Dear Grandparent, How Conversations with a Future Grandchild Inspire Bold Environmental Action. My advisor is Dr. Falk Leader from UCLA Psychology Department. Future generations will live in the world shaped by the decisions we make today. The air they breathe, the water they drink, and the environment they live in all depend on us. However, we won't be there to see the consequence of our action. The benefit of environmental sustainability are often for future generations rather than our own. So my research question is, how can we motivate people to care about future generations' well-being and take pro-environmental action? Previous work suggests that people tend to share resources with those they feel close to. They are more willing to share resources with their family members and their close friends. However, when it comes to future generation, there is a large social distance between us and future generations that do not yet exist. To reduce the impact of the climate crisis on future generations, the current generation need to invest more in green energy, implement new environmental policies, and reduce resource consumption. But we struggle to make those sacrifices because we feel socially distant with future generation. Similar to future generation, people also feel socially distant with their future self. There is a large social distance between our present self and our future self. So we struggle to sacrifice our immediate pleasure for our future self benefit. For example, we choose to spend a lot of money shopping today instead of saving it on the retirement fund because we feel socially distanced with our 60-year-old self who will need this money for the living. Interestingly, interacting with the future self in virtual reality can help solve this issue. In this study, participants interacted with their 60-year-old self who had already accomplished their goals and talked about their life accomplishments. This interaction reduced participants' social distance with their future self and motivate them to invest more money in their retirement fund for their future self benefit. Interacting with future generations could work the same way. Interacting with future generation may similarly reduce social distance, foster connection, and motivate people to act pro-environmentally for the benefit of future generation. But how can we interact with future generations that do not yet exist? This is how large language model come in. Large language model is a machine learning model that can understand and generate human-like text. In this study, we had large language model act as our hypothetical future grandchild. We choose our future grandchild as a representative of future generation because there are already some existing connections between family members, so we thought that it will produce the largest effect. In this study, participants interact with their hypothetical grandchild who time travel back in time to 2025 and meet with the user. We recruit 1,124 participants from online prolific platform. Participants were randomly assigned to interact with one of the two chatbots. The control group interact with the personal learning chatbot to learn about topic of interest. The experimental group interact with our future grandchild chatbot. We developed three main hypotheses. We hypothesized that conversation with our future grandchild will foster bonding with future generation, increase concern about future generations' well-being, and motivate pro-environmental action. To measure participants' closeness with future generation, we asked participants relative to people living today, how close do you feel to people living at different years in the future? And here are our results. The x-axis represents the year that future generations will live in. The y-axis represents closeness with future generation. In this hypothesis, we asked participants how close do they feel to people living as 60 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, and 1 million years from now. The blue charts represent the control group, and the yellow chart represent the experimental group. Using t-test, we found that After conversation with the chatbot, the experimental group reports significantly higher closeness with future generation compared to the control group across all these 5 time points. So, conversation with a future grandchild successfully foster bonding with future generations. Next, we measure participants' concern about future generations' well-being. Participants rate how strongly they believe in the statements such as, we should act wisely because what we do today will influence future generations, and it is important to consider long-term consequences of our actions. Using t-tests, we found that after conversation with the chatbot, the experimental group showed significantly higher concern about future generations' well-being. We asked this same set of questions again a week later, and we found that the experimental group continued to show significantly higher concern about future generations' well-being. So conversations with a future grandchild significantly increased participants' concern about future generations' well-being, and the effect persists even a week after. Then we use 2 outcome measures to evaluate participants' pro-environmental behavior. We measure participants' petition signing rate and self-reported behavior. To measure participants' petition signing rate, participants were randomly shown 3 petitions about climate change. They then decided whether to sign them on online change.org platform. Using a chi-square test, we found that after conversation with the chatbot, the experimental group showed significantly higher willingness to sign climate petition compared to the control group. We asked participants the same question again a week later, and we found that the experimental group continued to show significantly higher willingness to sign climate petition. So, conversation with a future grandchild increased participants' willingness to sign climate petition, and the effect persists even a week later. We also asked participants to report their pro-environmental behavior in the past week after conversation with the chatbot. We asked participants, on average, how often did you engage in this action in the past week? The example of the action we asked include eating plant-based meal, recycling, and using public transportation. Using a t-test, we found that a week later, the experimental group reports significantly higher pro-environmental behavior compared to the control group. Conversations with a future grandchild successfully motivate pro-environmental behavior. Then we conduct mediation analysis to find a mechanism that drives an increase in pro-environmental behavior. We found that conversation with a future grandchild motivate pro-environmental behavior mediated by an increased connection with future generation. So, conversation with future grandchild increase closeness with future generation, leading to higher pro-environmental action. To summarize, the social distance from future generations is too large for most people to sacrifice personal benefit and act pro-environmentally. Conversations with a future grandchild foster bonding with future generations, leading to greater concern for future generations' well-being and higher pro-environmental action. Thank you.